Welcome guys, Ryan here again. Today we're going to take a quick look at the composition. So each scene or animation in After Effects is built and takes place in a composition. This is the area where you import and arrange and animate all your layers. So your layers are made up of any assets you bring in, such as footage, images, text or audio. You can work entirely out of one composition or you can pre-compose compositions, but we'll cover that in a later lesson. For now, let's look at the basic options on screen when we select a new composition. We can select new composition here in the middle, or we can go up to composition and press new composition, or we can press Control and N. So it's really not that difficult we can actually come down here as well. Click that little guy, so that's a little composition icon as well. So there's loads of ways we can create a composition, but just for argument's sake, let's just hit the one in the middle. Okay, so composition settings. So this is where we decide where are we going to be showing this composition and what ratio does it need to be, what size does it need to be, how many pixels, and so are we showing this on Facebook? Is it going to be a square Facebook video ad, or do we want to make a landscape composition because it's going to be more, of a cinematic piece, whatever. So composition, you could just call this one like main to start out. I usually do something like that. And then the presets down here, this is where you could select a preset if you like. They're just different sort of arrangements of composition, size and ratio and pixel density. So here we've got HDTV 720, which you can see is just a preset for 1280 by 720, which is 720p. Again, that just basically means landscape. So if we wanted a square composition, we'd probably want width and height to be the same. So if we wanted to use a square, we might put 1000 by 1000 or something like that. Or if we wanted a kind of Facebook really gives you the most room when you have a 4:5, so that would be like 400 by 500 or 800 by 1000 if you wanted more pixels. But really, honestly, to get going, you could just hit HDTV and just get a preset sort of landscape composition there. Pixel aspect ratio, we don't really worry about that. And frame rate, most like high def videos, YouTube videos, things just run at about 30 frames per second, generally speaking, and a lot of these presets actually go to 29.97. I'm not sure of the ins and outs, but this is a very popular sort of frame rate to have. Resolution, so we've just got that at full. And duration here, this is quite important. This is where we set how long the composition is going to be. So, for most of the stuff I make, it's usually like 10 or 15 seconds. Facebook stuff, generally, I find shorter videos work better, but it's not to say you can't. You can't really render anything longer or build anything longer in After Effects. You definitely could. So I'm just going to put like 15 seconds here just for an example. Now put 00, and the background color is black, and that's what the color will be if you actually render out the background. But we can go over that later, but you can render it transparent as well. But let's just keep the background color as black, and we can just like click OK here. So obviously, we've seen the ways to make new compositions. We can press Control and N here. We can go to composition, new composition here. And we'll go into a lot more detail about this later, but just a few more little details here. So in the project window, this is where the composition is shown. And all that really means is, so say you had in other editing programs, like say in Premiere Pro, you just have the timeline, where everything goes. But After Effects builds on that and lets you, it's essentially putting timelines in timelines. So you can see down here we've got main. That means this composition is selected. So if we drag our footage and everything down here into main, we'll be building out this animation. And if we render, we'll render out this composition as well. But what you can do later on is you could have a completely new composition where you build an animation. It could be like a name coming in, or sparks or fireworks or whatever you're going to build, and you build that in its own composition. Then you drag the second composition in. So if I just show you, for example, let's just say we call this name, and then okay. And then we just suppose you've got an animated name in here. I don't want to go into it too much because we'll do some stuff like that later. But suppose you got your name animation here and you've got all your different layers. You can just drag that into the main composition and it'll be in there, so you can completely control all of the animation at one point, you know, by selecting the composition. So that might be a bit mind-blowing, but it's better to just get that out the way now, so later on when we're talking about compositions or selecting things, you've got a clear understanding. And you can see down here as well, main is selected, name there. And just bear in mind as well, friendly tip, that whatever composition you're in is what you're going to render out when you go to render. So that's worth bearing in mind as well. I think that's it for now. So, I mean, we're just going to keep these tutorials as just like a go-to point. So later on when we're actually getting the good stuff done, if you're like, hang on, I don't really get that bit, you can come back, and I want to keep them relatively short and more of them, so you can find the information you need quickly when you need it. But for now, we understand the layout and we've got our compositions, and I think we'll go into a bit more on the timeline in the next video, and very soon we're going to get stuff moving. So thank you again for taking the course. Look forward to sharing my knowledge with you in the next video.